This is the second of a couple of podcasts that we will make on the subject of right speech. And so this one is particularly on the subject of lying and why lying is wrong. There's a teaching that the Buddha gave to his son when he was 7 years old. And in it he told him two things about lying in particular that are quite memorable. The first was that if anyone has any quality of a meditator or a monk in him, that is, any quality of an ascetic, somebody who wants to live a higher life, the moment he tells a deliberate lie, he throws away all of that quality, and there's nothing left. The other point he told his son was that if someone has no shame in telling a deliberate lie, then there is no wrong he will not do. Although in our society it might be seen quite lightly or taken quite lightly that lying is not such a bad thing or there's no harm in telling a little white lie, we systematically lie, especially to children, and it might be easy to look on lying as something that's not really that serious or not really as bad, for example, as physically hurting somebody and harming somebody, or like killing somebody or stealing from somebody or something like that. And it should not be seen like this. It should be seen just as seriously and taken just as seriously as stealing or as killing or committing adultery or any wrong action. So why is lying so wrong? The first thing to understand is that lying can never ever be done for good reasons. It's always done out of self-interest. The most common reason for lying is to hide another lie that we have told or hide a wrong action that we've done. Lying is like an enabler of all wrong actions. So this is one of the reasons why the Buddha says that somebody who has no shame in telling a deliberate lie can do any evil, any wrong whatsoever. That's because if you do any wrong action, it always goes with lying. You're not going to go and commit adultery and then tell your husband about it. Or you're not going to steal from somebody and then tell everybody about it. It goes always with lying. So if you do wrong actions, then you have to accept to be able to lie. So if you accept to tell a lie, it means that you are making it possible for yourself to commit basically any other wrong action that you like. So in this sense, it's always out of our own selfishness, for whatever selfish, greedy reason that we might want to commit adultery or that we might want to steal. The lying is therefore done to protect ourselves, to hide the fact that we have done this, and thus to make it possible for us to continue doing the same kind of thing. At a somewhat smaller scale, one that's more common and more acceptable in society, lying is often done just to make ourselves look a bit better, sort of bluffing, to sell a better image of ourselves for somebody else, to make ourselves look better in somebody else's eyes, or to say just what we think somebody else wants to hear rather than just telling the truth. Why would we want to act in this crooked, cheating way? Why are we not able to be honest? For one thing, if you are not ashamed of yourself, if you know that you do good, then you have no need to lie to anybody. You have no need to be dishonest. You feel no need to be dishonest with anybody. And for another thing, if you're not selfish, if you were to have no self, why would you care about what others think, or why would it be so complicated to reply to a simple question from somebody? It would be so easy to communicate. We would feel no need to say anything other than the truth. So lying is always done to protect our selfishness and to enforce our selfishness. The second reason that it's so wrong is that already we've seen a little bit of it, but that it's a bit like dynamite. When you first light the string that is going to set off the dynamite, when you light the string, oh, it's only a little string, it's a little fire, it's nothing. But this is attached to a whole heap of huge consequences. So the one main thing is that it makes it much harder, even one lie, it makes it much harder to go back and apologize for having done something wrong. if you've done something wrong, let's say you've stolen from somebody, and then you immediately feel guilty afterwards, then okay, it might be possible to give it back and then apologize and say, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. I stole from you. But if you steal and then on top of that you lie about it, now you not only have to admit that you stole, but you have to admit that you lied and that you were dishonest. And it's almost impossible for most people to do this. Nobody will do it. Instead, they will just go on telling more and more lies. And the more lies they tell, the worse it gets and the more impossible it becomes to turn back and enter the path of honesty again and ask pardon. Because now you've made yourself into somebody that nobody can trust, that is a friend of nobody. So this is why very often it happens that just even on the base of one wrong action and one lie, this lying and stealth and cheating ends up becoming somebody's whole life. Like one's whole life is based on a lie. One common example might be if somebody takes drugs and they don't want their family to know, that they will have to tell lies every day, constantly, to hide the fact that their whole life is a lie, that they're doing something that their family doesn't know about, that is illegal, that is harming their family and themselves and everybody. And now they're no more a husband, let's say, or they're no more a son, they're just a cheat. That's their whole life. Even just sitting at the dinner table, pretending to act like a normal son or a normal husband, already it's a lie. You make yourself into somebody that nobody could respect. And of course, another huge consequence is that when you are immoral like this, when you lie and when you're dishonest, it's impossible for the mind to be at peace. You will have to live with regret, with shame, with fear of being found out, with constant insecurity. You're never going to be able to be at peace with yourself or happy with yourself. It's impossible. So these are the main reasons for which we undertake the precept of not lying, that you just refuse to lie. You say, okay, I will never tell any lie for any reason, no matter how small it is, no matter how insignificant it might seem. I refuse to be somebody dishonest. I refuse to have this selfishness of wanting to hide my wrong actions. Now this also, just one further point, it doesn't mean that every question that everybody asks you, you have to just blurt out the whole truth. Because it depends. It's very possible that people ask you inappropriate questions, or they ask you questions that you have no requirement or no moral requirement to answer. If somebody asks you about your bank details, you don't need to give them the whole reply out of seeming honesty. That's not honesty, that's just stupidity. So silence is also a very possible and acceptable response to an inappropriate question. Or if you don't want to just give a blank silence, it's also possible to ask them a question, to divert the conversation, or to give a reply that doesn't answer the question if it's an inappropriate question. But in this case, we also have to be very clear with ourselves and honest with ourselves as to the reasons why we choose not to give an answer or choose to divert the conversation. If it's to hide a wrong action that we've done, it's not correct. We have to know why we are doing so and act on the base of wisdom instead on the base of emotion and selfishness.